Let's kick things off with the movie that everyone had been anticipating, a Pixar sequel that I think is above all of the other Pixar sequels, except Toy Story, bro. I don't know what your list is, but to me, Inside Out 2 is up there along with all of the other ones, except for Toy Story 3, 2, and 4, I think is how I would rank them. I don't have my list fully on me right now, but...
I'm trying to think about like all the Pixar sequels out there, right? Because if we're just separating Pixar originals and Pixar sequels, like Pixar sequels are pretty hit or miss. Like, yes, the Toy Story franchise has always been pretty exceptional. Even if I have some misgivings with Toy Story 4, I still enjoyed it. Of the other Pixar sequels, Finding Dory is coming to mind is one that was like solid. Nah. I mean, it's definitely a downgrade from its original. I am like, I have a history of being more down on Inside Out than most people. I'm pretty mixed on the original. I would go so far as to say that this is maybe the only Pixar sequel I can think of that's an improvement on its original.
I'm not arguing with you there, as I put my little list together right here off of someone's that I just cloned online, so don't mind the scores there. Unless it's mine, I don't know if it's my scores that pop up here. I think firmly I have Cars 2 at the bottom. Then Lightyear came out. I don't know if you're counting that, but I am counting that because that is technically one. I'm putting Lightyear right there. I'm putting Finding Dory at 7. Incredibles 2. Right there.
Ooh,
Monsters University.
Really?
Oh, you know what? I never had Cars 3 in this list, so I'm going to have to put Cars 3...
A little bit further down.
I'm going to have to put it right there. And then, now that we're talking about Inside Out 2, I think I'm going to put Inside Out 2, like I said, right at the cusp. So if you're counting the Toy Stories all as one, I don't believe it beats the Toy Story. We've had 10 Pixar sequels. That's insane now that I'm looking at the list. 10 whopping Pixar sequels. That's like more than a company sometimes has in releases. I'm going Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 4 as the top 3 Pixar sequels. But Inside Out 2 mops all the other ones. It is far and away better than the Cars movies. I love Finding Nemo. You're right. It is way better than Finding Dory. Lightyear's, Incredibles 2. And I'm not even the biggest hater on Monsters University, but I would say that there is a massive gap between 5 and 4. I think this is probably one of the best Pixar sequels outside of the toys. Easily.
Absolutely, yeah.
You don't like Inside Out.
not a whole lot. I mean, look, I don't think it's awful for sure. Like it's not like a artless Pixar movie. My qualms with Inside Out are more on the specifics of how it handles the whole idea of how like brains work and emotions work, and whereas I feel like a lot of the best Pixar films are taking a simple idea and expanding my mind about it. Like, you think about like the inner lives of toys or whatever, or like a rat in the kitchen or something like that, and just really, really blowing it out. I feel like the first Inside Out movie is a depiction of brains that doesn't really resonate with me, and how it kind of like really streamlines and simplifies a lot of things. The relationship between the emotions in their head and the actions of the character and who's in control of what never really seemed like particularly defined in these movies. But what I think really works about Inside Out 2 for me is the whole central metaphor. It just feels a lot more solid, feels a lot more rooted in like an understanding of the brain, because what they add to the pot in Inside Out 2 is this whole idea of some new emotions that are triggered through, growth. I don't really think that's how emotions work, but whatever. And the idea of the oncoming anxiety that Riley faces in her pending puberty.
The new emotions
anxiety really is the star of the show here, voiced by Maya Hawke. It's another thing that I find a little strange about this franchise, is that like it is supposed to be about all these different emotions, but it really is just about like joy and sadness, and now it's really just about joy and anxiety. I think, though, the whole idea that they're posing here is like the structure of the story about like anxiety is this thing that upends your sense of self and can replace it. It like resonates. It's a smart metaphor, and I think the metaphorical aspects of this film worked a bit better for me than they did in the first one.
I'm the opposite, but not hating on 2. I think the first one, because of the way that it simplified it and it had the rules, I thought it worked pretty interestingly as a way to have like little kids be like, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Is it? I thought it was a good way to showcase that many times when you're feeling the emotions that you have, they're not necessarily negative. I rewatching it again, I was like, damn, that's such a profound thing to have disgust, fear, anger not be things that are bad, but things that are warnings for you. And I thought that was a beautiful way for them to go about it, especially when kids may not be able to describe what they're feeling inside. I'm not going to disagree with you. Is it like scientific? No, there are a lot of rules that they make up that feel very weird. But I felt it more in the second one, more so because in the first one, remember, the whole issue is that sadness is touching things and it turns blue. Oh, no.
Right.
No, the second one, this girl's touching everything. So it's like, to me, not even the science of it, the lore of the Pixar movie itself, I felt from what they established in the first one was no longer kept in the second one. I agree with you. You know, where were the emotions being kept in the meantime? You didn't see them in the parents in the first go around, but now they were popping out here. There's little things here and there that are a little bit of an issue, but they didn't bother me too much. I do agree with you though. While I don't think it's up there with the first Inside Out, these new emotions were kind of decent. I thought having Paul Walter as embarrassment, they said that they brought him in and all this man did was come up with that they would give him like a sheet of stuff to say. And then he would say none of the words. He would just have to say it as like onomatopoeias. That was fantastic. Right. He killed it there. You have another one in, what is it? I think what was Io? Envy, sorry. I don't know how much her character added to anything else, but her voice acting was crazy. She got to go all over the place, you know?
Yeah. I mean, she's delightful in it. I don't really know how necessary her character is. Like, I don't know if they even, like, if there's any in real moments of envy even in the movie, but
no,
sure.
It was just her liking something. But I agree with you. It ends up becoming something where it's like joy and replace sadness now with it being anxiety. But the beauty of it being anxiety is, like you were saying, Maya Hawke not only plays it to a T. Seeing them both do press, Maya Hawke and Amy Poehler. Hey, yo, you can call a Nepo baby all you want. They mixed this girl up in a pot, and her parents created probably one of the best Nepo babies we got right now. I know a lot of people see Nepo baby as an insult.
You saw her Nepo baby quote, right?
What was her Nepo baby quote?
It was really good. It was something like, she's fine not deserving it and doing it anyway. It's like very self-aware.
That's all we ask, bro. And that's the biggest issue, right? Because it's like, what are you arguing against? A truth? Right. Nepotism, if I'm not mistaken, I guess Google the word. It just means that you are related to somebody within the industry. To not acknowledge that, I think, is false. It's not taking away from your skills, but it's denying the privilege that you have of having somebody there. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just like the acknowledgement of the fact that you have a little bit more familiarity and perhaps the chance to go through an open door that not everybody else has. Yeah. Like, you know, it doesn't, like, it's not an indictment of your moral character or something.
And Maya, you are one of the better ones out there. You are literally somehow the artistry of your dad and the badassness of, not that Ethan isn't, but Uma Thurman. Like, she is able to play with both. She's able to be cool. And then the embodiments of awkwardness in this movie. Seeing them do the press run, it's so funny to see Amy Poehler sometimes be one up by Maya Hawke. Like, Amy Poehler would say something so profound, and then Maya Hawke would come in here and then just like do some crazy elongated speech. You see it in the movie as well. There's a moment where anxiety comes in and tells her to like zip it, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's finally met her match over here. But the beauty of the movie is that I think when you like really pay attention to it, joy causes a lot of the anxiety. Because Joy has all these expectations that she wants to put on, what's her name, Riley, you end up with a lot of things that causes Riley to, you know, spiral into a loop. In this movie, Riley is now 13. She is a teenager. We see why they chose to not have it be a boy, because a teenager who is a girl at 13 is going through different things than what a boy would be going through, especially here because she wants to go into this hockey camp and she needs to decide, as I follow this, you know, passion of sports, am I going to remain with my friends who are no longer going to be there? They're going to be going somewhere else. They're not going to be competing to the level that I'm competing in. And should I be switching to this new friend group? And I love how anxiety, they describe it as while fear is focused on what's in front of you, anxiety is scared about what might, could, may never happen. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that is exactly something that kids at that age need to understand. I thought that was good.
Definitely. And I think sometimes when it comes to my qualms with what this franchise is I'm brushing up against the like kids movie aspects of it, because these movies are incredible tools at communicating these hard to grasp ideas in simple packages. You know, like where it doesn't necessarily withstand my like adult scrutiny of the inner workings of, you know, the brain and emotions. That's fine. It doesn't need to do that. It's a Pixar movie. And ultimately, I think the emotionality really works in this film. You know, there's been a lot of discourse about all the animated films that are depicting different types of panic attacks, but I think this movie does really get to the paralyzing nature of that type of anxiety. I think the way that they end up using the whole idea of like imagination turned against you is so beautifully done. Yeah, there's just a lot of like really smart, clever touches. This film is not directed by the same person who directed the first Inside Out film. Pete Docter was the person who made Inside Out 1. Pete Docter is now on the like Pixar
head honcho
on editorial board or whatever it is, the overseeing committee.
Yeah,
and Kelsey Mann directs this movie. What did you think about the switch from Pete Docter to Kelsey Mann, and do you miss Pete Docter, who is like one of the Pixar legends?
Yeah, he is the GOAT. I mean, you look back at what Pete Docter's done. He obviously has a hand that is able to do a lot more. And I think what we're saying with all of the other emotions kind of feeling like they're put to the side, that wasn't able to really be approached at here. We did have 2 recasts. While they kept Lewis Black, who was fantastic in it. They kept, who else did they keep? Leslie Knope, Phyllis. But they replaced Mindy Kaling, which I know some people don't really care for. But I thought the change from Bill Hader was a pretty big one, because Bill Hader added a lot to the writing in the first one.
Tony Hale.
Yeah, because Tony Hale comes in. Tony Hale's already Forky. I don't know why this man's coming in to do another voice, but that means that Pixar trusts him, so they were able to bring him in, and he was able to do what they needed him to do. But Bill Hader did a lot of the writing in the first one. He was able to contribute a bit to it, and I think that was because he was working with Pete Docter, and he knows how to embrace that stuff. Kelsey did a really good job. Specifically because this man knows anxiety. If you listen to his interviews, you're like, yeah, you probably can cover this emotion specifically better than Pete Docter can. But when it came to bringing all the other ones in, I don't know. Again, I bring up the idea that when you establish the rules in Inside Out 1, Inside Out 2 now has to deal with all of the boundaries that have been created there. So he is also kind of stuck in this sandbox that has its limitations. I think he did a really good job for what he had to work with. So I'd give him the thumbs up. Not as good as Pete Docter, though, but he did a pretty good job. It's also his directorial debut. So I'm curious to see what else he's able to bring to other Pixar stuff, or maybe even other animated studios, because at one point I think he said he was going to leave. And then they were like, we have an idea for you. We've been watching you around the office. We think you could do Inside Out 2. Let us know what you got. And, hey, like I said, compared to all of the other ones, I put it up there as one of the best non-Toy Story Pixar sequels. So shout out to him. There were some animated things that they did here, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. They did some, like, I'll call it Dora the Explorer, Bluey homages, some Final Fantasy playing with, 2D animation. Rewatching the first one, when they go into Abstract Island, I think that still works on a rewatch. Mm-hmm. This felt like stuff that they should have done back in 2015. I feel like it's aged. After Spider-Verse, I know it's cliche to say it, but after Spider-Verse, I'm sorry. I felt like it was a little dated. It's like someone trying to break the fourth wall, going like, bruh, we're in a third Deadpool now. I don't know how you felt about that or other aspects of the movie where they tried to do some different things.
Yeah, I mean, it when they get to that sequence of the movie that you're talking about, it does one of the things that I dread in animated movies, where I feel like the plot just stops for several minutes so they can introduce you to a series of characters. It's just like, who's this guy? What's that person doing? For like a long sequence, and I just felt like most of the jokes in that had been, as you said, done by Spider-Verse or done by Wreck-It Ralph, or it just kind of it's the joke where you like spot what they're doing instantly, but they still have to go through the mechanics of telling you the joke for the next minute.
There was one when he stares at the wall, though. It was kind of funny, though.
Yeah, and granted, like, you know,
insane.
these are kids' movies, so they're probably, like, new to the audience that this is intended for.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to be said about this movie in some places feeling a little bit less fresh, a little bit less like you're getting something that's, you know, like, completely singular. And more like, you know, a retread not only of Inside Out, but of other jokes from other places. Like, I don't know. While I really appreciate the anxiety metaphor of it all, I'm not sure. I'm still not blown away by this franchise, although I know for like a generation below us, I kind of feel like this is sort of their Toy Story in some senses. Like, this is something that they were likely introduced to as kids, and now they're growing up with it, as Riley is growing up with it too. And given the huge box office returns of this movie, we're probably getting an Inside Out 3.
I don't see. Yeah. So I want to ask you that, but I agree with your point. They did the same thing for Monsters University, right? All right. Whoever saw it here is not grown up. Same thing with Toy Story. Pixar just knows how to do that. Like, I think they're finishing these movies in a year. They're just like, nah, we got to put them in the vault. Wait till the kids grow up so that we can maximize. They get that Top Gun Maverick box office numbers there. Where would you want to see it go? Would you want them to switch elsewhere? Does it need to remain with Riley? I like that they've been bouncing into other people's minds. There's been those theories. Why does everybody else, including your friends, have kind of similar emotions? Gendered that look the same, but Riley's have always been different. Is it just I don't know, an animated artistic approach? Do you see them doing something else with it? I feel Inside Out 2 was missing a lot of things. It feels like several scripts into one. They bring up a lot of stuff and it never comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are certain elements that feel teased that some corners of the internet are really hopeful for. I really love that tweet that's been going around where what is it? Getting queer baited by Disney is a little bit like losing at chess to a dog. Like, there's only so far that I think Disney's going to go in certain ways with this character.
They did report it, yeah.
Even if certain things feel kind of like intimated. I don't know. I mean, I think it would feel weird to jump into somebody else's head, and part of the whole thing with like sticking with characters you love is like you stick with the voice performances, and you know, Amy Poehler's joy is so integral to this franchise. Phyllis as Sadness is like that. I don't know. It's a kind of casting that is so perfect that I don't know if you can like replicate that in a completely new form. So
Louis Black,
if we want to stick
this
with,
man is funny.
Yeah. So if we want to stick with these people, I think we got to stick with Riley. And if we're sticking with the whole idea of like growing up with the audience, like I'm okay with the next one being like Riley's emotions as she gets to college. I don't know what like comes into play, what new emotions they want to introduce. Maybe we're finally going to get June Squibb as nostalgia in a little bit more of this movie.
She was great, yeah.
But
because I think the first one was 11. She's now 13, so it was only 2 years. So they could do 15. I'll play the Taylor Swift song in the intro credits or something like that. But I agree. I also wouldn't mind a time jump, having her go to college. They had even teased in the interviews of maybe her like jumping to be a parent. They do that Bluey thing, and now it's them, Riley having to deal with her own emotions for like a new kid or something. But I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes. In terms of all Pixar in general, especially with sequels, is there any property that you would like to see them do a follow-up to? I see some people, I think it's Gustav, saying WALL-E 2. I know people have been waiting for that one. Do you have any other ones? And why is Cars 3 at the top of your sequel list?
It's definitely no more Cars. That's probably the least likely sequel I want to see. To be honest, no. There's no franchise that I'm eager to return to. I feel like I've gotten everything out of all their different franchises that I could want. Like it maybe you can convince me something in the Monsters Inc. universe, although I'm not a big fan of Monsters University. Yeah,
and
so
they got 2 seasons of the show. Yeah.
And I didn't even watch that. So, I don't know. Oh, wait, was that mid-pandemic? Maybe I did watch a little of it.
Yeah, anyway. We did. That's what I'm saying. You don't remember it because it's not that memorable.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just want to see them do more original stuff. I still feel like the best Pixar movie of the past, I don't know how many years, is probably Turning Red.
And that's another one, dude. A lot of people are like, I think it's even here. One of the top like reviews is, "Where's horny? Where's this?" Some of y'all be talking about suicide and some other stuff. It's a kids movie, y'all. Y'all try
It's
a little
kids
too,
movie.
Y'all try a little too hard on Letterboxd.com, but that movie was made. It was Turning Red. I like that there's a
Right.
Turning Red Easter egg in here because it's like, yeah, that movie already covered even more of the awkwardness that this had. So I'd be curious to see how they combine those two, if anything. I think we're gonna get to a point where they're gonna interlock. If you're getting so many sequels, there's only a matter of time before you combine universes, combine
Yeah.
some of the franchises together. But we shall see. Inside Out 2 out in theaters now. I think it's definitely worth the watch. I hear that they're releasing an HDR version. I felt like the Dolby was already that, but they're releasing something where the colors pop out more than they ever have. I saw it in Dolby. It looked gorgeous, so I'm very curious to see what this next release is going to be, because I remember the first Inside Out 1, we didn't even know what HDR was at that point. They were barely introducing it, and they were really pushing the color spectrum there, so I can only imagine how much more outstanding it looks here. But I would recommend it. I think it's a decent sequel that really embodies the idea of having these characters and these emotions move on to the next level of what would happen as our main character grows up. Inside Out 2 out in theaters now. Let us know your favorite Pixar sequels down below. What you would have as number one. I'd be surprised if it's not a Toy Story movie. I'm gonna be honest. I can see this one maybe if you don't like the toys, but this is the only one that's come close out of everything else that's been out there, in my opinion.